Good evening, America, and welcome to the 10 o'clock news. I am news reporter Ainsley Tran. In today's presidential gossip, Buchanan's wife is wearing... Oh wait, what was that? This just in. The Dred Scott versus Sanford decision has been made. For those of you who don't know what that is, here's the background. So a slave named Dred Scott was sued for his freedom, and there has been a dispute over the legal status of slavery in the territories. And it seems that he was held as a slave in a non-slavery territory, ruled so by the Missouri Compromise. Let's bring in Dred Scott and his wife Harriet Scott to question more on this case. Welcome, Dred and Harriet, for coming today. So, I hear you used to live in a slave state and were moved to a free state with your owner, but kept as a slave.
Yes, that is true. We lived in Missouri under my master, John Emerson, and then we moved to Illinois, and I worked there for 2 years. And finally, we moved to Fort Snelling in the Wisconsin Territory. And now, since our master, Emerson, has died, we are under the control of Miss Irene Sanford Emerson back in Missouri.
Okay, I see. So you sued because you lived in a non-slave territory and kept under slavery?
Yes, indeed. We had hoped to be freed.
I'm sorry about that. And Harriet, I hear Dred here sued for your whole family's freedom.
He did indeed, and I'm very proud of him for sticking up for our family. If we would have won our case, our sons would have set free as well.
Great, thanks for coming in, and sorry about your loss on this big case. So, to sum things up for all of you out there, here's the map of the United States. So this is where Dred Scott used to live, under the Missouri Compromise line. Then him, his family, and Emerson moved to Illinois. Then they moved further north to the Wisconsin Territory. Then once their master Emerson died, they moved back to Missouri. So the Scotts took Mrs. Emerson to court, claiming Dr. Emerson had transported them into free territory. This relatively common maneuver by the Scotts initiated a series of legal struggles that will eventually reach the Supreme Court of the U.S.
I'm on the scene now where reporters are preparing to question President Buchanan.
Mr. Buchanan,
Mr. President. Oh, please, everyone, calm down.
Mr. Buchanan, why, in the Dred Scott case, do you think that the Supreme Court should allow Dred Scott to be seen as a citizen?
Well, being a northerner myself, I believe that all slaves should have the right to become free.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now we will be entering Chief Justice Roger B. Taney's office and asking him a few questions.
Bam! What? How did you get in here? Security!
Just a few questions, please, Mr. Taney.
I guess that'll be all right.
Justice Taney, why do you think this case in particular generated so much controversy?
Well, essentially, the original court case involved the plaintiff attempting to prove his enslavement, so he could prove he wasn't enslaved in an area where slavery was banned. And the defendant tried to deny any ownership in the family. Due to the confusing nature, the cause made its way to the state's Supreme Courts and eventually to the federal Supreme Court.
How do you feel about the decision made today?
I believe that this decision is just, because it cites the Constitution, which is a primary object intended to keep the Union at peace. There are 2 clauses in the Constitution, which points directly and specifically to the Negro race as a separate class of persons, and shows clearly that they were not regarded as a portion of the people or citizens of the government then formed.
So what was the outcome exactly?
Well, no African American slave or free could be citizens of the United States. It is, in my professional opinion, more important to note that Scott was not a legal plaintiff and that his registry in Wisconsin established no right to freedom because Congress has no power to prohibit slavery.
Now, we will move to the street to ask people from the South what they think of the outcome.
Our news team headed to an Alabama supermarket to talk to people about their opinions on the Dred Scott case. Excuse me, ma'am. What did you think of the Dred Scott decision today?
Well, I believe the Supreme Court really pulled through in prohibiting Dred Scott from becoming a citizen. It really supports southern states, and I am all for that.
Thank you. We're here in Illinois now by way of a very speedy horse. Is anybody here? Hey, what do you think of the Dred Scott decision today?
I'm angry about it. I mean, he was in a free state, so he should have been free. That was the whole point of the Missouri Compromise. And this is just an example of slave conspiracy. I mean, 5 out of the 6 judges were pro-slavery. It's just completely unfair.
We're here at the Thomas Jefferson Library to speak to Republicans about the matter. Excuse me, what do you think about the Dred Scott decision today?
I believe the decision is a wicked and false judgment. It is one of the worst crimes in the annals of the Republic.
Thank you.
We are now in Tennessee, where we're going to interview a Democrat about the situation.
This case is actually an excellent example of the Supreme Court's power of judicial review.
Now we see how the Dred Scott decision in the case is pulling the nation further apart. The North is enraged and the South stands by the Supreme Court. Will there be a civil war in the near future? Who knows, since there is so much sectional conflict burning in this nation. Good afternoon, America. Dred Scott lived. Then he moved to Illinois. Then he moved even northern. Mr. President, why do you think that? Dang it, what am I saying? Dred's in.
On their views.
Are you gonna say like hello?
Hi.
For doing everything he can for a family. If we would have won this case, our sons would have been as free as well.
Well, thanks for coming, guys. Man, well, thanks guys for coming, and
And then we moved to Illinois.